it feels like things are kind of quiet looking at the Eagles. Did you feel any sort of way with that when you saw them up close?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of times you get this team, they win the Super Bowl, and it's like, if you're not the New England Patriots, this is so new, this is another level for you, all of that. For sure, this was new for some of the roster, and obviously there are guys who have been added to the team since the Super Bowl. But this is a team that's been to the Super Bowl 3 times in the last 8 seasons and won twice in the last 8 seasons. So this has become kind of the expectation in Philly. And it's more like, hey, everything goes crazy and we panic if we end up a 10-win team, but don't make it far in the playoffs. And we saw that 2 seasons ago. So that's not a hypothetical. I would say that defensively, they still look like a huge problem. Year 2 of Vic Fangio, and obviously he massively exceeded expectations during last season. And then you have an offense where poor Jalen Hurts has had a different play caller like 10 of the last 11 seasons or something like that. I remember I wrote a story when I first got to Yahoo about him having his 7th play caller in 8 years. And he's had, I think, 3 more since then. So definitely, I think that was pre-Brian Johnson, pre-Kellen Moore, and now we have Kevin Patullo. Now it helps that Kevin Patullo's been in the building through Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, and Kellen Moore coordinating. So he's not brand new to these guys, but it is a new play caller, a new guy in your ear. So I think this defense should be really good again, especially if they can stay healthy. And then the question on offense is, again, like, how much are we emphasizing Saquon? How much are we emphasizing the passing game? I don't really think we should have questions about the offensive line because, remember, last year Jason Kelce retired and the line was still good enough to get a 2,000-yard rusher out of Saquon and destroy Chris Jones and the Chiefs' defense in the Super Bowl. But I think those are the questions. It's more like, how are they going to win than are they going to win?
Yeah, and I mean, the pieces that made them so wildly dominant are not aged out either. Like, there's just
No, they have the youngest defense in the league. I sat down with Zach Bond, and I think at 26 years old, he's the oldest person on that defense.
And this is, it's never too
Which
early
makes me feel
to
very
start
old,
the.
but
Yeah,
that's another story.
That's facts. It's never too early to start the Howie Roseman greatness conversation that just continues to just resonate every single week. But man, you feel it. Like, to your point, it's a young defense. Also, there's just no reason to think that Saquon's about to take a step back. They still have, an elite wide receiver room, and Jalen Hurts has turned into Jalen Hurts. Like there's just no reason. I can't pinpoint something on Philly and say, that's the reason that the whole league's going to catch up to him. Like things bounced the right way for him last year. Certainly, that Rams game could have gone differently. Certainly, there were moments that. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a given any team repeats because winning a Super Bowl is more luck than good, in my opinion. But there's no reason they won't be one of the dominant teams. Like, it's just, I feel it. So you caught a Peyton Manning story? What we got a Peyton Manning story, Jori?
Yeah, I haven't written this yet, so the editors might be mad that I talk about it on the show. But when I was talking to Zach Bond, he mentioned that in Nick Sirianni's range of off-season projects of what do you do the year after the Super Bowl. It didn't really say to avoid the Super Bowl hangover. It was more just like to stay focused, stay the mindset. One of the projects was Peyton Manning spoke to the Eagles Leadership Council, which is about 15 to 20 players. Zach and I were talking about this more in the sense that he had gotten a contract extension, and Peyton Manning mentioned that he always viewed contract extensions not as rewarding what he'd done, but as rewarding what he now needed to go do. But there's a lot of things like that transferred to the post-Super Bowl year in just terms of how you stay focused. And Nick Sirianni had another line I really liked this week, which was that they want to do the ordinary better than anybody else. So I think that there's a lot of like, hey, Landon Dickerson, their left guard, was emphasizing that the 2024 Eagles are no more. They're the 2025 Eagles. And it's not like, no one there is talking like you need to defend your championship. It's more like you are 0-0 and you need to go win games and you need to stay humble about it. And I think it's like ring ceremony. You put that behind you. Now you move forward. And I do think that this group is really interesting in that there are so many of them who were there for the Super Bowl, saw how bad it could be right after, and then were there for the Super Bowl again, just in that 3-year stretch. And so they do understand, like, hey, just because we win 10 games to start the season doesn't mean that year is going to go well, and our defensive coordinator isn't going to get fired in the middle of the year, and we're going to spiral. So I think there's just a little bit of we've been there before, and we understand what it takes. That reminds me a little bit of what the Patriots used to have.
Yeah, there is an element I hadn't really thought about with those two Super Bowls in such close proximity to each other and how that impacts what I think is a pretty natural moment post. Like, you spend your whole life working for anything. When you accomplish it, it's easy to sit there and say, hey, you know what? We're just going to run it back and do it again. But it's, I mean, the point of contracts, like when you win Super Bowls, a lot of guys get paid. And when you win Super Bowls, you do get the ring and you go out and you party. And like, you've spent all of these years in your life just waiting and coveting this one thing. And then you get it. I mean, I think human nature says that it can cause some people to lose just a little bit of their edge, and a little bit of your edge can be enough to, that can be the difference in a matchup in any particular game. So like, it's easier said than done. The human element of it to me says it's easier said than done to just be like, all right, going to run it back this year. We're not, I just figuring out a way to do that is difficult. But your point is a really important one here of having seen such a fall after that Super Bowl. Like, it wasn't that it was just like, oh, well, the next year we lost the Super Bowl. No, like it was a disaster for Philly and that in between. I do wonder how much that changes the way people are able to refocus and remotivate in this situation.
Yeah, I definitely think that's something. I remember I did a story when I was in college on a high school basketball team that won 105 games straight. And I remember my dad calling me and being like, hey, they're coming to Austin for the state championship. You should cover them. Like, how do you even stay motivated when you haven't lost in 4 years? And they ended up losing the game that I was at in the championship. But I do think there's this element of like, you have to find new ways to define success. And I was talking to that with someone in the building today of like, the same way that I think the Commanders shouldn't define success and if they've improved this season just by if their record's improving. I know that they need to notice that as an important benchmark, and that's what gets guys jobs and that's what gets you in the playoffs. But I think it's like, hey, let's say you're an edge rusher and you got X number of sacks and forced fumbles last year. Well, maybe you'll get that this year, or maybe they'll start double teaming and chipping you. And then you can say, well, how many times did I recognize my cue from film and end up in the right place because of it, even if someone else ended up making the tackle? Or if I'm the receiver, like, how many times did I run that route in a way that, like, hey, maybe AJ Brown ran it in a way that opened up Saquon to do something. And I mean, I think that Nick Sirianni even mentioned that Saquon won the SB for that sprinting backwards hurdle situation. And he's like, when I say do the ordinary better than anyone, I think about the blocks that AJ is throwing on that play. Like, that's the ordinary so that Saquon can do the extraordinary, but you doing it all that. And so I think there is going to be this emphasis of like, yes, you want to be extraordinary and you want to thrive in those moments, but you start by doing the ordinary first. And if you're redefining success as doing those things well, then you're able to achieve success on a more regular basis than if you're only defining success by the ultimate result. And I would argue that Howie Roseman does that in managing the team of, hey, it's not just like, did this draft pick hit? It's like, oh, you have a draft pick. Do you use it to draft, or do you use it to trade for someone, or do you use it for this? And it's like, everything is a means to an end to bettering the team. And then you can have these like stepping stones along the way rather than viewing everything so binary.